Hello, I'm Colin.
And I'm not going to be replacing Prue Leith on Great British Bake Off.
And
And
Is it
it's
official?
much to the Great British public's disappointment in that,
I
John, as well,
know, I
because
know.
we obviously we receive lots of fan mail through the Longbangers email, and one of the most consistent bits of fan mail we get is, when is John going to replace Prue on the Great British Bake Off? And we
Never
say, well,
happening.
we, the transfer window's open, so Channel 4 could come in with a bid for you. But so far, we have resisted any offers. And you're
I'm
not
a
interested, John, are you?
no, I'm a one broadcast man.
Good, good. Colin, you getting the transfers in often?
No, not that I'm aware of. Although I think, based on some feedback we had, my mum would sub me now that she's aware of the podcast. I've hardly ever mentioned it to my mum, but she's got friends that listen, and apparently my language is too bad for me. I never swear in front of my mum. Never, like, a shit or an arse is about as close as I get. So, um, I'm going to try and put my, as I've been told, my work voice on. Somebody else that listens told me about my work
All
persona
right.
and my podcast persona, so I maybe try with the work one the day and see how it goes.
All right. Well, didn't change too much. Um, Obviously, it's an earlier slot for us. Felt quite weird logging in at 1:30 to do this as opposed to 8 o'clock our normal time. But
Or
John,
3 minutes past half
or
one,
3 minutes
as it
past
was for
the
me. Yeah.
um, John, you and I are off to a burn supper tonight in Kirkcaldy.
I'm very looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, so am I. It's, hoping to have a good night. I think we've got, I'm sure, Sarah Mixu, and I'm sure Pat Nevin and Lewis Stevenson and Ian Murray there as well. But anyway, I have not been looking forward to this. Right, Glebe 1875 said, "Afternoon, guys. Hope you're all well." Yes, Glebe, hope you are well too. And Jay Star said, "Shocking week, shocking season. Megwa not good enough. Gray and Malky out, or we finish bottom six. It's bottom six. Paslak in squad again for his club today, so doesn't look done." I didn't even care where we started today. Do you know, I was dreading coming on the day because yesterday was such a shit show. It was so bad, and the strength of feeling is, it's just like there's a lot of anger in the support area, and I always think we've got a bit of a responsibility to try and convey that as much as possible, whilst also reserving the right to their own opinions on these things as well. So let's start with a very brief. We'll not dwell too much on the game because I want to get as many of the talking points as possible. But we'll talk about the team selection first. John, what did you think when you saw the team?
Excuse me, wrong time to have to clear my throat. I was intrigued by a horror being missing. I think I was intrigued by, well, maybe not intrigued by Cadden being missing, but there was a bit of pre-match chat that Cadden was injured.
Hmm.
I don't think there was any pre-match chat about O'Hara, so he was just off the team sheet. So presumably, but I think there's a bit of a suggestion that there's a bug going around the Hibs team. So although there was a couple changes in there, one of them we talked about on Friday in the preview show, which was Chaiwa in for Mulligan. Otherwise, it was a squad with a couple of changes, but it looked a reasonably familiar Hibs team.
Relatively familiar. I think on that bug, I think the what I heard was it was a heart and kidney issue that's been doing the rounds, and you could see that with the players yesterday. It looked like they didn't have the heart for the game, and the kidney be arse playing. Um, Colin, what did you think of
Wah,
the
Been a while,
wah,
lineup?
wah.
while since you've used that one.
Yeah,
Eh?
you're all weak.
Mm.
What did you think of the lineup, Colin? John's right. It was a familiar looking team, wasn't it?
I think it was that dissimilar to what we picked on Friday on the preview. Really, I
Hmm.
mean, Bashiri in for O'Hara, but I think we didn't know about O'Hara being ill or injured,
Yep.
whatever one it is. But other than that, Boyle in for Cleege was maybe a difference. Cleege obviously not on the bench either, so I don't think it was like, I don't think anybody would be massively surprised. I think the big talking point seemed to be we didn't fill the bench.
Yeah. What do you think was that? That was all about.
Mm. Well, he's already got a laddie on there that's never been on the bench at all, isn't he? So
Hmm.
I don't know if maybe what's the point? Like, is you got to bring them on anyway? You know what I mean? They're just there for experience. I don't know, or is he sending a message to say 5 injuries? Look, and that's what we've got.
So it's interesting you say the message because I was thinking that this is where like the theories start where it's like a protest selection. Mind
Mm.
Lennon playing Lewis Allen up front against Livy.
Aye.
Hmm.
Like was the
Crystal
bench
Palace did it
not.
last week. They didn't bring anybody on the bench. They named laddies on the bench and then said, "I'm not bringing any of them on."
That
So
seems a wee bit.
let's get done.
It
Hmm.
seems unprofessional. I'm not sorry. I'm not
Mm.
saying that David Gray's been unprofessional, but for the Crystal Palace manager to say that seems pretty unprofessional.
Yeah, try to work
But I
his
think
ticket.
it's. I was going to say, is he trying to work his ticket to Man City?
or just to get out, I think. Just keep selling his best players. Anyway, we're not talking about them, eh?
No, we're not.
Maybe I think maybe Matty would like to, so we didn't have to talk about what's going on.
Listen, we need to get stuck into this. Eh? We need to do what we need to do with it. I think it's important we have the conversation. I don't know if it's a sending the message. I think what a manager achieves by doing that. Like, surely has like they have the conversation where, like, if Gray wants to get that message across to Malky Mackay, they sit down in the room and they say, "Listen, I've got no career that I can put on. I'm going to have to bring in the laddies, but I've not even got enough laddies to fill the bench. You need to get the finger out and get me some signings." So I think if it was to send a message, I think it's the wrong thing to do. But I'm not convinced that's what it was. Rob Morris said, "Afternoon. I'm still very much in the Grey in camp. I doubt we'll achieve top four and hopefully manage to stay in the top six. I think a big review is needed at the end of the season, though. Big reviews. We get to this point every couple of seasons, don't we, Colin? Like the big reviews, the mass clearouts, these kind of things. Does it feel like that's what's needed again?"
No, it feels like that's what we're talking about again, because we're kind of in this cycle of, well, that's what we do. I think we maybe need to think about it a bit differently to see what we need, because it was only a month ago we were talking. Well, you actually said to me that I think you sent me a WhatsApp or something saying 2 weeks ago, BBC
12
were
days
saying
ago.
12 days ago, is it a Motherwell and Hibs in the title race, right? And that was 2 weeks after we hammered Hearts. Despite our own fan base trying to talk that result down at the moment as well. I say our fan base, like not all of them, obviously.
A couple of folk are waking into a defeat.
Aye, so it's like it's almost it wasn't good. And last week, yesterday was terrible. Last week was brutal. But it's one defeat in 6 in the league, right? If we can, but we're going into a hard run, which is probably where a bit of the anxiety is as well, isn't it? You're coming into Rangers next Sunday, Dundee United, Hearts, is it? And then St Mirren. I don't know if we count that still as hard, because they're a bit of a bogey team for Hibs. But,
yeah, they are.
Obviously, there's a lot of call for their manager at the moment, despite them being like sort of in a relegation fight. But yeah, it's a hard run. But if they can get a result against Rangers, get a result against Hearts, like, and I say result, a draw, or could sneak a win in one of them, you're back to like one defeat in 8 or 9 games. And then you go, we're still talking about sacking the manager. I don't know. It's hard. Like, I just think that I don't think it's as bad a squad. Folk talk about the weakness of the squad because you look at the bench and you go, but look who's sitting in the stand. It was the same against the Motherwell game, because I think they were sitting along for me yesterday. It's different players, but it's similar. Campbell, O'Hara, Clegier,
both Caddens,
Mulligan, both Caddens are all out. Most of them are either starting or first subs off the bench. So it's like we're missing a chunk of players at the moment. But I don't think we've not talked about the game, right? That was unacceptable yesterday. Like that performance, we were miles off it. They were slow to everything. They were, it was like Dylan Tate, who was one of your mass clearouts, was running rings around their midfield. Like, he was taking the ball and he was turning, and we were in swiping at him half a second after he was away from them. More than one occasion, and you go, we released him. Like, it's just they look miles off it. The defence didn't look like they knew what they were doing. They didn't look like they'd ever played together again 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
so they had played together because they played last week as well, like that. So you can't accept that at all. Like, that can't, and I don't think David Gray did, based on what he was saying post match. But when do you then decide?
I've lost Colin there for a second. I'm sure he'll come back, but John, while we wait on Colin, I'll bring you in. What went wrong yesterday, then? So how did we end up playing as badly as we did?
I really don't know. Like, we never got started. I don't think that throughout the entire game it looked like we were going to do anything, as Colin says. It was like second to the ball. Like, I think the tackles that we were putting in, I don't even think they looked like, how to describe this, like, I'm not even sure how to describe like how we were tackled. It was just poor. Like, I think Chaiwa had one where he's I think it was the one where Cliff Pike mistook Chaiwa for getting booked. There was the one that Megwa did actually get booked for, but that was strange. I didn't think that was a booking.
It was never a booking in a million years, by the way.
But I like, it was. I don't know what went wrong, but I feel fairly confident saying that we just never got started. And it just like, and it never, like, I thought to myself, like, after the first half going in 2-0 down, I thought, right, this is shite. Or was it 2-1? Doesn't matter.
2-0 at
But
half time, and then we got it back to 2-1.
getting in at half time, and I thought, right, we've had some shit first half performances this season, and we've had a bit of a revival second half. We've improved a little bit. I thought that's what we were going to get yesterday. Didn't really improve. We had a change of shape, and we had like a minor flurry where it looked like we were maybe starting to come back into the game. I think that included the goal. But other than that, like Falkirk were just more determined, quicker to the ball, like all the usual sort of cliches that you would apply to it, and they took their chances. Like as frustrating as it is, as frustrating as the performance, and appreciate what Colin was saying about it being unacceptable. We did have some chances yesterday. We've had Hanley forcing the save out of Bain. Abita's had a shot. I think there's maybe been one or two others.
Megwa blasted one over as well for a
Megwa
good
blasted
position,
one
yeah.
over. So like we've had chances there, we've not taken them. The performance and the inability to take those chances reminded me of the game that I think ultimately led to Jack Ross's sacking when Boyle blazed his penalty over the bar. I was there that night, and I remember saying to, it was actually Ewan for down the slope. Folk were going absolutely fucking daft, and at that point, I thought that the players weren't playing for Jack Ross anymore. Subsequent comments suggested that that wasn't the case, but subsequently Hibs made their moves to remove Jack Ross, and I think it took us quite a while to recover for that, as has been like widely acknowledged.
Colin, Gray talked before the game we wanted a reaction. Like, so we sat and recorded last Sunday and talked about how bad a performance it was against Dunfermline. It has a lot of similarities to last season where we got skidded by St Mirren. Craig and the players spent the week in the press talking about having a reaction. We went to Dens Park and then lost 4-1. And at that point, the groundswell of opinion really was that's it, curtains for Gray. He's no surviving this. Folk were talking about us being relegation candidates. He's lost the dressing room, the players weren't playing for him, and so on. A lot of those noises have come back again on the back of the last two performances.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about
that? I was wondering what the question was. I was thinking, I was trying to remember all the words you said and pick a question at it. What do I think about it? I feel like it's never went away. Like I feel like that run at the start of last season, which turned into a good run, like championship title chasing form for half a season, masked all the opinions that were still there, and they've never really went away. I see it on Twitter last night. I said back then he wasn't the right man for the job, but you weren't saying that when we went 17 matches unbeaten. Even to the point where somebody says, take the seven. Didn't they say 17 matches? Take the games after the 3-3 game with Aberdeen out of his results and tell me what his win rate is. You're like, take no, we just got to take all the, just leave all the bad stuff in and just say
it's bad.
But but then even then, I think he still came out with more wins than losses. When you take even that run out of it, it just feels like some of it never went away. It just quietened down because you would have looked a bit stupid to be saying when we were winning or not getting beat for 4 or 5 months in a row that he's not the man for the job. The style of play doesn't help, right? Because when you win, you kind of don't moan about it. And actually, when you win, it can be it can be all right. We scored quite a lot of goals. It can be quite exciting. But when somebody's stopping you, and like Motherwell have, like Falkirk did yesterday, we didn't create much. It's quite turgid and hard to watch.
Yep.
But then, if somebody was putting some tackles in and that would get you up a wee bit. But that's not happening either. And that's what I'm meaning about we'll have an off day, and you go, well, see if you can't do that, like at least somebody go on, like put a cruncher in. Like David Gray as a player used to do that, and that got the crowd up, and everybody, like at least the players care, and there's a bit of leadership, and look at that mentality, and look, he's dragging them along. Would they have players like that? But they just all go, oh, it's not working. Oh well, it's cold today. That's what it looked like yesterday.
It did look like that yesterday. John, we're not going to dissect the game because it was just shite. Like, I mean, you could go through the goals. The goals are all like fucking shit goals to lose it. It was so easy for Falkirk to carve us open. We looked at the stats, Colin. You mentioned it earlier on. We weren't unlucky in the goal scored against the run of play or anything like that. It was a proper doing for the team yesterday. Falkirk were worth every bit of their victory. So rather than kind of going and saying, well, we never stopped the cross, but Ken Megwood didn't get to his boy, or Rocky wasn't marking, or we didn't
Hanley
play the
was well
offside
off it
trap.
yesterday.
Hanley was miles off it. There's a couple of games Hanley's been
Mm.
well off it as well. But again, I think when the team's as bad as it was yesterday, we've got time to call it individual performances, because literally I think you could go for
Yeah.
goalkeeper to striker and moan about them. Danny
I think the
Conway.
goalie's the only one that's actually turned up in the last 2 games. He kept us scored in yesterday,
Mhm.
and last week he kept us in it.
Danny Conway left this tweet yesterday, and it's got a few questions in it, so it gives us something to kind of start the conversation on. It says, where are we going wrong? Is it down to tactics? Is it team structure and balance? Is it individual performance, physical condition, psychology and mentality, coaching and messaging, game management, collective behaviours? Whatever it is, we need to get to the bottom of this now. John, what jumps out to you as being like the sort of the key problem at the moment? If you were put on the spot, which I'm doing it now and saying, give me one thing, even just to start us off. You didn't have to be right with it. Just one thing to start us off. What do you think is the biggest issue?
I think the biggest issue. I'm really not sure. I think if I was to properly hang my hat on something, it would be some of the changes that we made following last season that haven't been able to continue that form, because we are playing largely the same system, playing largely the same way. But last season was better. This season isn't as good. We've made
Hmm.
some changes to try and strengthen the team, and I think in some cases it has. But other areas of the team have been left unaddressed, such as like the right side of defence, like we've talked about Lewis Miller. Um, and also, we've had injuries to players who were big performers last season, and we haven't had, and actually also a drop in form. So I think it's a personnel thing, but it's hard to kind of like nail down exactly one area. I think it's a collective thing around the squad.
Um, okay. UK play said the goals against us yesterday reminded me of Legia Warsaw not stopping the cross. Kenny said with the smallest squad in the league, 24, 6 players out injured, hence a young lad on the bench, and 5 on that bench, not good enough anymore. Colin, the bench yesterday we had Newell, Levitt, Hoylett, Molotnikov came on.
Manny,
Eli Yuan, Alessandro Mane. There are a few on there who we've spoken about we wouldn't renew for next season. Levitt and Hoylett,
mm.
for example. Molotnikov, we would think would have a future at the club. Yuan's probably on his way out. Leaves us with Joe Newell. You mentioned it there, right? So the squad is probably, with everybody fit, is a good size and in good shape. We're missing, what was it, 6 or 7 players yesterday? So it
Mm.
impacts the bench, but there's probably still enough on the bench that you would expect them to go and beat Falkirk.
The, the squad that was here yesterday should be capable of going and getting a result, Falkirk, right? But I agree that I mean, we've got the club captain on the bench, and they didn't even bring him on. Like,
Mhm.
when you think you need somebody to come on, like whether he had a good game last week or not. Now he was out for about a year recently, but he's been back for weeks and available now.
Mhm.
He had what did he play last week? Must have been 60
It was
minutes.
an hour, yeah, pretty
Aye.
much bang on an hour almost.
So normally when they built somebody up to 60 minutes, then the next step would be 75, 90, right? Like, or a 60 again. And
Mhm.
we've sat him on the bench and never even brought him on when we need a bit of leadership and fight and inspiration. And we didn't even get on.
Aye.
So it suggests to me that he's either not ready or he's on his way.
Can I retract my previous comment and pinpoint the one thing that's wrong at Hibs just now? It's that Block 7 still haven't turned that fucking banner back round.
Again, they need to have a good look at themselves as well for that. Like,
And did I not
let's
see
be
a
fair.
thread about white socks? Are we wearing white socks again? Was it last
Well,
year
we
we
were on the
switched?
yellow strips yesterday, so
Aye, of course.
which, by the way, was a step up from when we played them last time when we couldn't tell the strips apart. So
Mm.
it was much easier to tell them
Maybe we
apart.
would do better wearing. Well, maybe it was better for the players though, based on
Aye,
the
maybe.
results.
Kieran said a lot of folks saying it's crazy this grey talk, but we have played rubbish for most of the season with a couple of good performances. That's it, really. Um, some of Kieran's chat on the Patreon chat last night was terrific as well. Made some really good points. Kieran coming, Kieran. I think this is the other thing, right? So when we're talking about Gray, I was thinking about this yesterday. So I'm firmly still in the camp. Didn't sack him. Right? I didn't want to see David Gray sacked. I don't think he should. I don't think that conversation should be happening just yet. I think there's still enough time in the season for us to have a relatively decent stab at it, right? We could still get fourth, and I think until that's out of reach, you keep the manager. Yesterday, if I was only looking at David Gray and his performance was yesterday in the game against Dunfermline, I think either of those results in isolation are sackable. Like if you like, they were so unacceptable, so far for the standard that we would expect at Hibs, that in isolation you could say, like, that's no good enough and sack. But football doesn't work in isolation, and that was our first league defeat in 6 games. In 6 league games, and you can stretch the run back. Obviously you start building in more results, but league table tells you we're not having a terrible season, right? It's not great because we're sitting in fifth place, but listen, we've been worse, right? And that shouldn't be the benchmark either. But I didn't think fifth place is let's get the pitchforks and chase a manager. Like we did it with Jack Ross and regretted it after it, or some folk regretted it after it. I think we're in that place with Gray. I think if you were going like office HR procedures, you'd have Gray on a Monday morning and be giving him a final written warning for it. It would be like, right, we've had that, we can't accept that. If it happens again, fucking time's up or whatever. You're almost at that stage where it's like there needs to be a conversation to say we can't have another game like that. We've only got however many games left this season. We want to get fourth place, you need to get the finger out. But I wouldn't want to be sacking him yet. But John, when we're talking about Gray and his future, we can't just look at 2 game bursts or 6 game bursts to decide whether he's doing a good job. Like we couldn't go after 5 games and say he's not been beat. That's him secure for the season. In the same way that we shouldn't be going after 2 terrible defeats. Sack him, right? You've got to look at the bigger picture. Would you agree?
It's quite. I find myself in quite an interesting position because I had a look earlier when we were talking about, sorry, like knowing the sort of conversation we're going to be having today, and I was having a look at just how long David Gray's been in charge. I think he was appointed in June 2024, so he's like hit that 18-month, 19-month time that Hibs managers tend to depart for, through one means or another. But if you cast your mind back to when Nick Montgomery was in charge, I was the one that was like, I don't even know how many times it was like
I
double, triple,
remember.
quadrupling down. Like, I'm no sacking him. I don't want him to leave because he needs time, needs to get his own players and etc. etc. And without like trying to turn the tables on you guys, like what would your justification be at this point in time for continuing to keep David Gray in his job?
For me, it's
Because I think it's like I think those performances that you're referencing and like looking at things in isolation or as a bigger picture, that was the kind of thing that I was looking at before. And with us now approaching that 18-month and with like deliberately referencing the Jack Ross departure and what people acknowledged afterwards was a mistake, I think that's where we find ourselves again. So how do you defend David Gray to stay in the job? What do you see as the future? And and also what do you see as the pitfalls of potentially relieving him of his job? What would be the impact on Hibs long term?
So for me, it's the body of work that he's got behind him, right? And I'll reference back to coming out of Dens Park last season, 4-1 defeat. And games that I mentioned to Colin, right? So I remember writing my BBC article after that and sort of saying this was a game where we were meant to see the reaction. The players have chucked it, right? I mean, that was essentially what I was getting across. Like, all the talk for the players was been about, we need to put it right. We'll have this reaction. They showed it for 10 minutes and then the arse fell at the team and we lost 4-1. And at that point, you could see nobody back for David Gray. You remember the conversations, right? They're almost identical to the ones that are happening now. Going backwards fast. He's not got a plan B. Doesn't care how to turn it around. The players aren't playing it for him. They've chucked it. Worst coach team in the league. Like all these things started coming out about David Gray. And then we weren't. Do you know, like he had enough about him to go and turn it around. This season, he's not had that level of adversity. He's not had the big, massive bad run, and the bad performances have been interspersed with good performances, and I think it's important to acknowledge that we have had loads of good performances, right? And they get forgotten, and because everybody hangs their hat on the bad ones and say, "Oh, the style of football's been shite," and it's not been shite, in my view, right? And I get subjective. I think the standard of football has been shite all season. I think uh, we've struggled to get a 90-minute performance out of the team for most of the season, but we've had 60, 70-minute performances where the teams look really good at times. Even up against the like Hearts the last derby, we talked about that one. We were fine. 3-0 up against them. Should have went 4-0 up. We should have had that game tucked away. And then we had our bad spell in that game, and we still won it though. We never bottled it. We never Hibsed it or whatever fucking shite they come up with. We saw that game out. We won it. We beat the Protodgy. We've had good performances. We've had good performance against Motherwell at Easter Road. When everybody's talking about how good they are and how their manager schooled David Gray and all the rest of it. Falkirk was scudded earlier in the season. Like, there are good performances in there that folk are quick to forget. So I think, to answer your question, it's that body of work and the fact that we have the evidence of him having the adversity and turning it around before that says you need to give him a bit longer. It's the exact same conversations we're having, the exact same. And I'm not saying the feelings aren't valid, because they absolutely are. Folk are angry, and they're absolutely right to be angry, because it's been shite. Two weeks of utter shite. But it's only 2 weeks out of shite. Like, the week before that wasn't shite. The week before that one wasn't shite. The week before that one wasn't shite. Like, you need to look at the bigger bit. You can't just go 2 games and go forget all the other stuff that was decent and sack him. Monty never had that. Monty was shite almost for fucking day one, right? I mean, I think Monty had his 2-0 up at Kelly's first game and drew 2-2, if I remember. And that was a pattern, right? We had however many 2-2s with Monty, and the football got worse and worse and worse week on week. Now, you could argue football's getting worse because the last 2 weeks have been worse than we've been at any point probably in Gray's time up until now. But that's the anomaly. Like, we generally are all right in games. Like, we win more than we lose under Gray. I think
Even if you take the 17-game run out of it,
aye, even
we
if
win
you
more
take
than
that
this.
out, somebody put the stat up on Hibsnet, and I can't remember it word for word, but it was about out of however many managers over the last however many years, there's only been, I think, 2 managers that have won more than they've lost, and Gray's one of them. Like, he's not doing a bad job. Overall, he's not doing a bad job. He has bad games, and like yesterday is inexcusable. I offer no defence for it, but I don't think it's enough to sack him. I think if that answers your question, Colin, you can have a go, because John asked us both.
Aye. There was a second part to the question, John. Can you remind me of the second part of it? Because he's answered the first one. I don't think I'll add much more to that.
What consequences of sacking him? Was that?
The
Oh yeah, like
consequences, aye,
what do you say is like
that's right.
the long-term impact
Yeah.
of leaving a manager now?
Well, I think that we probably go around the cycle again and going, who do we get in, right? And folk will be calling for Stevie Robinson like they are, or John McGlynn, and just because they're like flavour of the month in the media, and it's like Stevie Robinson's bottom of the league, like down there, like he's got to come in, quick fix. We'll soon be complaining about his style of play and that he's playing 3 at the back with a sitting midfielder in front of them, and that we sit in against Rangers and Celtic and hope to hit them on the break and all that. We'd soon be complaining about that. So we'd be going through this loop of just trying managers, and because we're kind of conditioned, I suppose, now as a fan base, as soon as you get a couple of bit of adversity, you go sack the manager then. That's it, sack him, because that's what we think the club will do, and that's what we expect to happen. I can see us going through the same cycle again. I don't think there's that many good managers out there, like in the Scottish League. There's probably ones I'm not aware of, right, elsewhere, because I didn't pay attention to like how Motherwell got their boy, who seems to be good. But again, it's only 6 months, so like, they could now go on a 3-month poor run, and like we'd be calling for his head. Like if what's this passing about at the back shite? Like that would be the call. So I think we as a fan base maybe we need to become a bit more. Is it? I don't want to say patient, right? But like you
Resilient.
need resilient, or understand like it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks of really bad results. I know folk will throw in, no, it's been all season and that. I think who made the point? We barely play 90 minutes. Like we barely play 90 minutes, and
Yeah.
that's probably a complaint, right? Because you do wonder what's going on there. Like we're relying on a good first half or a good second half to get us back in the game. A good first half to win the game, or a good second half to get us back in a game. Because we never turn up for the whole game. I don't know. I think that one of the points for that big email that you read out, or the tweet, sorry, was about conditioning as well. And I don't know. like, I don't know if it's conditioning, but you do wonder why can we not string a 90 minutes together, like we did last season. And it was only last season with a lot of the same players, so I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard. I just think it's the unknown. You sack him. What do you do? Who do we get in? Right? What have we got to do? We got to go through this. How long do we give him? The new one or her? But how long do we give them? Right? Because if they didn't come in and instantly hit the ground running, we go, should we do more with this squad? We spent a fortune on this squad, right? So we're immediately got them on the back foot, and then we're kind of starting to chase the next person at the door if they didn't win all the big games and all the wee games. Because it used to just be the big games that was a complaint. Now that we've got results, the big games, we're moaning about how bad we are in the wee games. But I don't know. I just think I'm not saying I'd never sack him, right? Because it's fucking that's terrible. Nearly swore there, right? Nearly swore.
You're allowed, it's all right.
Aye. No, my mom gave me a row. So 48 next 2 weeks' time, man. Right. Aye. So I think it's I've got a fear of the unknown now because we've tried it, right? So it's not really unknown. It was murder for years, shite for years after sacking Jack Ross. What, Maloney, Johnson, Monty, probably another one in there, I can't remember, right? And we just go through these. So I've not got any faith in I still don't know if the club know what they want for a manager. That's what we spoke about when we went through all the ones, right? We tried the young guy, we tried the experienced coach, we tried the 500 games in England manager, and we just kept ripping it up and starting again. I don't know if the club have kind of decided what the model is and what the strategy, long-term strategy is. So I think we would just go through binning folk that Malky knows. Because that's what would happen. It'd be like, hey, Malky, recruit the next manager. I worked with Kettlewell at Ross County. You know what I mean? It'd be like, and it would just be, I don't know. I've got that fear of what would happen rather than like better the devil you know sort of thing. Grass is always greener.
I like that you brought up Mackay because I was thinking about it from a slightly different perspective. Like you were talking about, like your fear is that, and I think this is maybe shared amongst other people. Like, what does Malky Mackay do? I think we know what he does. Although the recruitment hasn't been great this season, and there's some long-standing issues there. Like we're approaching the end of the transfer window, nothing's happened. Like I get that, but when Matty mentioned the HR meeting, I was reminded of Malcolm Mackay providing context. Like that's part of his role, or was part of his role for David Gray when he experienced these initial challenges as Hibs manager. What would you say the context that Malcolm Mackay could provide to the results now?
You asking me?
Either open question.
So I mean, there's an easy one for yesterday, but you wouldn't want to use it as an excuse because it's also quite easily dispelled. But look at the players that were out yesterday that would have been in the team or an option off the bench that would have made us better than we were. And it's not just the game, which is the other thing that you forget is he did Ken. So Cleary was ill. Can't remember who the other person that was ill. O'Hora maybe. You don't know at what stage they fell ill or said they couldn't play. So that might be Saturday morning. Right, so you maybe worked on your training, you've got the team set up, you've got your game plan and everything, and then Saturday morning you get a phone call, I can't come in today, I'm feeling sick. So you go, right, fucking hell, Rocky, you're going to play right centre half now. Boyle, you're playing, you weren't going to be playing, you're going to have to get your head in the game now. I'm going to have to adjust a couple of things. Get Joseph McGrath on the phone, I'll need to get him in on the bench for the squad because I've not got the numbers now. Are any of the other lads is available? Not right. Well, we'll just go with what we've got, right? Maybe Levitt wasn't going to feature in the squad that day, or Newell was got the day off or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're changing your plans. You didn't ken these things, right? What we see as fans is we see the lineup, we see who's on the bench, and we go, oh, that's fucking shite, right? But there's always context that I would say if Malky was going into the boardroom and all the board members are saying we want to sack Gray, and all he's got was yesterday's performance, Gray's fucked. Like, because they would say, well, look at the players that they had left. Go and tell me, the boy that scored the hat trick, how much is he worth? Like, where was he last season? He was playing fucking university football or whatever it was. Right? Got a fucking hat trick against Scotland Hall of Famer. The fuck did that happen? Right? You had Martin Ball who was sold for 3 million or whatever and bought for whatever back. Bowie who were wanting to sell for 6.5 million. It doesn't wash. Like it doesn't that if you're the board members and you're sitting responsible for the budget of the squad, if Malky only goes in with the context of that one game, Gray's toast. But you go back and say, well, and Malky has to take some of the blame as well. Where's the striker that Gray wanted last summer? We're sitting at the end of January. We've still not got a striker in that Gray wanted.
We're the only club that's not signed somebody in January this
Aye.
window, and I know it's a hard window. Fine, that's for Hibs.
Right, Lewis Miller. Right, so for all Lewis Miller had his detractors at Hibs. Right, I always thought Miller was a decent player. I said it on countless podcasts. I liked him. He's going to have a good season down in Blackburn. He's made the step up there. He was performing well for us when he left. We've ended up with a laddie in there, like Megwa coming in, covering for Carden, who was miles out of form. We've not replaced that position. We have no threat at all down the right hand side, like none. And we've been talking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's not a new thing. Now, Gray has a responsibility there to go and adapt his system to suit the players that he's got, which he hasn't done. Right, so there's a failing there on Gray's part, and I think he has to hold his hands up. But I think the club are culpable for no backing him properly as well. They spent a lot of money. If you were just to go and say, here's how much we've spent, again, Gray's not got a defence, and if you're Ian Gordon, you're going, well, fucking how much do you want me to spend? Do you know, like I've chucked that's a record signing you've got in there. How much you need to beat Falkirk? I think it's difficult to put the mitigation in, John, but there is some there for Gray. And you go first defeat in 6. You want Saka manager for his first defeat in 6 league games? Really? Which manager's going to come to your club after that? Say, what did the last guy get sacked for? We beat off of Falkirk. How was he doing at the time? He was doing all right. Wasn't setting the heather on fire, but he also wasn't fucking getting us relegated.
Finished third the year before, and he had a 17-match unbeaten run, and then we were challenging for the league, and we just hammered Hearts, but we lost to Falkirk.
You sacked him, aye? Right, where'd that sign? Do you know, like it's
how much they would say though? That's actually what they would say.
How much did he get for it? Aye.
And how long do I get when I get sacked? At the end, do I get the whole contract, or do I just get the 3 months?
Listen, I'm conscious of time. I want to not make this about our opinions on it, because although I think John, I think we're all agree we wouldn't sack him at the moment, right? But I think
I'm closer to it than you. Like
you are,
I can tell you're. I'm like very much like I don't want to, and but I've got the context for it, and I'm contradicting myself. But you know what? Hibs have been a total contradiction this season. One of the best ones is we never use the midfield, but ask the majority of your fans, pick your best 2 players this season. They would say Mulligan and McGrath, who are the midfield. And yet we keep bypassing the midfield, and we didn't get the midfield on the ball. How are they our best players then? But then we didn't score enough goals. We missed too many chances while having the highest XG and second or third highest goals. It's like there's contradictions all over the place. We've got a really good defence with Hall of Famers, but we let loads of goals in. We let more in than the other teams in the top 6. It's like there's so many things that you like what your perception is versus what the actual fact is. It blows my mind. There's so many things in it.
Right, Kerry said, is a possible income in investment hampering signing anybody? I don't know. I don't know why it would. I would have thought if you're bringing somebody in to invest, you want to get the money in quickly and try to use that to strengthen the squad, because the stronger the squad is, the more valuable the club is for an investor. So I don't know if that would stop it. Kieran said, bringing Rudy on and having to change your defence, midfield and attack to suit it was ridiculous, and it killed us. I mean, that was the plan B in evidence, John. Like, that was, we heard for Gray, no plan B yesterday. We did have a plan B, but it didn't work. That it is. So, again, there's a plan B that doesn't work, the same as having no plan B.
That's what you said last week.
Aye. I don't think, like, you could have changed the starting 11 yesterday. Well, sorry, you could have replaced all of the starting 11 yesterday with someone else off the bench if the laws permitted that kind of thing. And I think the outcome would have been the same. Like Dunfermline, Falkirk were just better than us yesterday.
Green Tea said, Paslak not being released until his club get a replacement. Yep, that's right. Don't want us buying for the sake of it. Hibs TV said not enough fit players to fill the bench. J-Star said, Patrick from the Hibs Observer made a good point. Even when we done 5 unbeaten, we looked poor. Glee 1875 said, football department is negligent in this current... are as negligent in this currently as the manager. Our lack of transfer movement unacceptable based on the fact we knew what we needed at the tail end of the last window. Kieran Paslak's on the bench today, and we're in the cycle because managers haven't been able to go again after one good year. And that happens, doesn't it? Like we've seen that with Hibs over the years, that will, and not just the Hibs, other clubs are dead as well. They have a good year, then the next year they struggle to maintain it. Greavesy said, listen to the last few podcasts, guys. Always a good listen. Thanks very much, Greavesy. We didn't pay for that comment, by the way. That was a genuine one. K-Rob.
But if people want comments read out, especially like fiver ago, sounds reasonable. I'm up for that.
Aye.
Well, they get the ones read, the ones with the wee yellow box beside them. I've just put YouTube on.
Aye.
And they're the ones that do pay, aren't they?
Aye. K-Rob said, didn't expect us to do much business, but we would have thought we would have signed someone by now. Still very much grey in, despite the pitchforks being back out. Perhaps a 4-1 defeat will spur us on again. A big angry Scotsman's a Falkirk fan, said, your problems on the wings aside, I feel a proper destroyer in midfield is your biggest issue. Tate was basically given the freedom of Falkirk to play yesterday. Colin, you identified that as well. I mean, Tate on the midfield, and we just didn't get near him.
Like he couldn't get in our team. Like when we were poor.
Chris said the real concern for yesterday was the lack of actual running. That's unforgivable, and we desperately need a creative spark in the middle. I absolutely agree with that.
That's what McGrath is.
McGrath he barely touched the ball yesterday. I think the first time I really noticed him was he fucking fouled somebody in the edge of our box. He looked like he had a burst mouth. I think if it was just the image or whatever, but anyway, he didn't have a very good game. McGrath didn't get in it at all.
I think it's hard though. Like I was saying that, I was speaking to my brother-in-law Charlie there when I was out with the dog earlier, and he was having a moan about it, or we were both having a moan about it. And there's a lot of criticism about Bowie, Boyle, and then you chuck McGrath there. We're not winning the ball and getting it to them in good positions either. Like if you're wanting them to, we're just sort of shelling it to Bowie and hoping he can control it. Boyle needs McGrath, for example, to be picking the ball up and playing him into space for it to run onto, and we're not doing that. We're kind of going down and hoping that one of your fullbacks that are playing wing back can swing a decent crossing, or Bowie can get his back to goal and hold somebody off. It's like it doesn't feel like we're playing to our players' strengths.
Nah, not at all. I agree with that. Right, John, I'm going to put this one to you. This one's coming via WhatsApp, and the person asked not to be named for their point. So they said, if Gray was to be sacked, would he ever get a job at any club, anywhere, in any country? The answer is clearly no. So why is he considered the man to lead Hibs? And B, what do the coaching staff bring, and how are they qualified and experienced to be in the dugout of one of Scotland's biggest teams? Eddie May is, in brackets, reportedly despised by anyone who comes into contact with him. The rest are hugely out their depth. I don't know if that's... I don't know. I've never seen the reports about Eddie May, so I'm just reading that as it was sent to me. John, would Gray be a candidate for another job in Scotland at the moment if one became available?
Absolutely. He's been caretaker manager, 3 times for Hibs?
Neil McCann's got a job in the Premier League.
I mean, it's a fair point, isn't it? Like if
Kettlewell's had about 3. Like Robinson's kicked about clubs. You know what I mean? Of course he would.
But they've got some experience behind them. Like, well, McCann maybe aside, I think he's been a manager previously somewhere. But I don't think it was a successful
one. Went to Dundee and failed there, though. I mean, like he had an absolute shocker there.
So, David Gray. Previously, like I'm just talking about, like if you were looking at it like in a CV sort of sense, you would say, right, so you were caretaker manager and these were your results, and then when you were appointed full-time manager, you oversaw the adversity of a shit start for the season, had a 17-game unbeaten run, finished third, were on the brink of Europa League qualification through the playoff stages, but you had a bad second season. So I can understand. I'm maybe inferring that Gray's relationship with Hibs is what made him a shoo-in for the Hibs job, but I think there's enough body evidence there that suggests that he would get a job elsewhere, that he would be at least interviewed, if nothing else.
100%. Barry Robson went for Aberdeen, had a good season, and then got a job at Wraith. Of course, he would get another job. Maybe we would get him on the TV and the radio to get a bit of Hibs representation, though. That would be a start. That would be decent. And then he could just flit in between jobs and in between going back and forward like Neil McCann and that do.
Colin, the point about the coaches, we had this discussion when they were hired, didn't we? Like, and I actually had the conversation with Malky as well about the credentials. Is it an issue?
We don't know. Right? They've probably got their badges, but I suppose our and this is a criticism that it does annoy me about that a lot of fans give to Gray about picking his pals as players, right? Because I think he wouldn't. He might. He's not picking Newell anymore, right? Boyle's still one of our best strikers, so. But that's some of the criticism he gets picking his pals. But he has picked his pals coaches. and we don't know what they're like. And we don't know how they get. You ask the question, how do they get assessed? How do we measure their performance? And it's just like, well, it's on results. And if the manager gets sacked, they get sacked. But we don't know. We don't know if they're any good. No idea, because we don't see what they do in training. We just see what happens on a Saturday. But how much of that's the manager and how much of that's the coach or coaches? I don't know. No idea.
Raymond Gray said, sorry, David Gray and the three stooges behind him have had their time. Punched above their weight last year, to their credit. This year, most investment ever in the team, and the team sit 11 points better off than at the same point last year. It's not good enough. Too many favourites and safe selections. Managers have sussed David Gray, and it shows. Sorry, time for change. Mackay and McGregor until the end of the season, then a new manager. It is all very poor, and the disengagement between the team and players is evident.
Good. Sorry, McGregor and who else to replace Gray?
Mackay. I mean, I have to say I'm against that. Like, Malky said himself that he's no.
Oh, Mackay, that Mackay.
Malky Mackay, yeah, that Mackay. Like, I think that sends out all the wrong messages.
John. You can Gary.
I was rattling through the Rolodex. Like Mackay. No, it wasn't coming up.
And any other thoughts on that? So, I mean, is it a case of get Gray out, get an interim management team? Would it be McGregor and Mackay for you, John?
Why would McGregor and Mackay do better than do better than how we currently are? Like appreciate taking into context the two previous games where the performances have been terrible, the results have been shit. But overall, are we to believe that Mackay and McGregor are going to do better? I don't see it personally, but This is the first time that Mackay's been suggested. When I was making my joke last night about David Gray being the caretaker for David Gray, I did consider, like, well, what would happen if we were to relieve him? Would it be a Darren McGregor who would come in as caretaker because he's done some work, albeit at a lower age group? I don't know.
Probably McGregor and Boozy would step up. You would think maybe Gareth Evans.
But this is what I'm thinking. Like, are we like our current form? I think there was a model that suggested that where we would finish. I can't remember exactly where it was that we finished. But if results continue where they are and we want to stay fifth, for example, you would prefer that surely to Mackay and McGregor or McGregor and Boozy coming in, because that's the unknown. That's a complete unknown. You can't surely say that's going to be better than that's. You can so that's the point.
Be saying just because he played for Hibs and he's a Hibs fan, he's a manager. Like folk throw the header in the cup final as the reason that Gray got the job. You know what I mean? It's just storing up problems for the first.
Sorry, I hope that I'm not poo-pooing the point. That's absolutely not my intention.
No,
I'm just trying to go for like I'm just trying to rationalise and put some logic in my head around it. And it's no rational for me to put Mackay, McGregor and Boozy in place of David Gray.
I think it's a good point you make. Like, although we'll agree and disagree with folk that send the comments, and it doesn't, our opinions aren't any more or less valid than anybody else's. Glebe 1875 said, also, what's the plan B for those that want Gray out? 5 top 3 finishes in the past 40 years for Hibs. Despite that alarming performances recently, I'm forgiving him until the end of the season. Stephen said, I'm thinking Gray will be gone, but not until the end of the season. No point in letting him go at this point, unless we really fall off a cliff results-wise. Phillips said, how can you not get yourself up for a football match? Once is acceptable, twice is a pattern. And Chris said, you know what else needs to change? The whole chat about the plastic pitch. They've been around long enough for professional players to adapt. That's one thing actually I've not seen anybody complain about the pitch for yesterday, but I don't know if that's elsewhere. Greavesy said, Gray out. The style of play is honking. He's not a good coach and it's showing. Look at the way Motherwell play. It reminds me of when Mowbray came to us. Gray plays hoofball. Gray's case hasn't been helped with the rise of Motherwell this season. Like, but I mean, everybody talks about would feel better about things if Hearts won the top of the league, but Motherwell were the elephant in the room, really, with either ahead of us in the league, which when folk were saying, well, Gray's still ahead of this boy when they were singing his praises earlier in the season, now he's no, they're on a great run. That doesn't help him because there's a very easy, just get him.
I know, and it's not even the style. So the style of play gets talked about a lot, but see if you look at the defensive record,
unreal.
It's fucking unreal. And not only that, and you look at it and you go, it's Paul McGinn and Stephen O'Donnell on that.
Aye.
Just a wee bit of experience. I mean, it goes a long way.
But if that manager came into Hibs and went, right, I want McGinn back and I'll bring O'Donnell, we'd be going mental.
Aye.
But
But
it's
he's
like
look at what the solidity they've got.
I think this is a conversation that's come up before again about teams that are perceived to be teams that are perceived that we should beat.
Yeah.
Motherwell, Falkirk, etc. And when they are performing better than us, why are we not performing as well as them? And well, it's because their expectations are low. Well, logically, rationalising things like I was trying to do before, you go, well, let's just lower expectations a bit. But we can't do that because we are Hibernian Football Club.
And you're accepting mediocrity, aren't you?
Aye, like it's like a spin cycle. Like, and I think what we need to do is just kind of hit the button that, just pause it and just let things die down a wee bit and work out the rational, logical next step forward.
Michael said some big name players and fan favourites need to take a long, hard look at themselves, letting the manager down big time. Missed a player like Chantis in the middle of the last couple of games. I think that's a perfectly valid point as well. For all Gray's got stick, I mean, there are the performances for the players that have worn the shirt and taken to the pitch for the last 2 weeks have been a disgrace. And that's where you, like, I mean, Newell's there. Like, we talked about Newell being a good captain last season, and mind all the chat about cancelling Christmas night out and having difficult conversations, kind of locked the manager out, and they had it out with each other. Maybe they need to be gone back to that sort of thing, because
Get your arse back up, Ben Lomond, away and have a chat.
that's it. Aye, because we didn't look like we had that yesterday at all. Everybody looked kind of quite happy just to accept it was a shite day at the office, and they all looked like they just wanted to get back fucking down the road.
There was a point made by a listener previously. It was around about players. Oh no, I think it was Colin actually, but it was like, oh, it's looking feels a wee bit cold. Like I just want the game to be finished and get back inside. And I was picturing Martin Boyle with the long sleeves and the gloves on. And there was a point that I think it was the last season we were talking about you are not chasing a ball that was going out of play. And I tried to make a pretty flimsy case about like conserving his energy, etc. But what sort of message do you think it sends on a game like yesterday where it's blowing a gale and it's pissing down with rain and you've got your £3 million striker cutting a boot and gloves? Like, does that send the wrong message?
I think if they read anything into that, do they? Short sleeves
Who,
only?
the
Is it one of
players?
those ones? Aye.
But this is the thing, though. This is one of the challenges I think around like the perceptions of the thing, the perceptions of players and the efforts that they're putting in. Like, does your star striker going out saying, "I'm feeling a bit of a chill today"? Does that send a message to the rest of them, or is it immaterial?
I mean, there is an element of that, John. I think, where you have like it's like who's up for it, like who really fancies it, and who's there doing what they need to do. Rob says, give him a chance to fight for top 3 or 4, and it looks like we're nowhere near that at the end of the season. Consider our options. Stephen said, when we lose, we really lose. The performance in every league defeat has been pitiful, more often than not, absolutely woeful. Motherwell, both Glasgow teams, home and away, and yesterday, it's never a tight loss. And that's a fair point as well, Colin. You've referenced it, like when one player has a bad game, the whole team has a bad game.
Yeah, that's I don't understand how that happens. They'll get dragged down to the level. There's nobody. I say that we've got an example where it didn't happen at Kilmarnock, just in that 5-game run in the last month. But when Mulligan and McGrath stood up, but there's been many more examples. It just everybody down in tools. It sounds harsh, but you know what I mean. That's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, it's all going against us today. Feeling sorry for themselves or whatever it is.
It's like we've got morale sponges in the squad. Like when one player's just not feeling it, the rest of them they get sucked up.
Nah, who knows?
Right, we've got loads still to get through.
There's one there. I've just seen one come in at the bottom, right? It was 1770 car. Too much arrogance surrounding the club. This stage of the season, treating Falkirk away as a wee game in inverted commas is ridiculous. Well worth their position in the league. Mm-hmm. That was probably me because I said wee game, but that was me making the point where, as Gray was only a month ago getting said he can't win big games. But if you were going to drag Falkirk into the big game thing, then you're almost dragging every team in the league. Every game's a big game. Whereas we've always defined it. It's always been defined by the people that want to hammer Jack Ross or David Gray as Rangers, Celtic and Hearts. And sometimes Aberdeen, depending on how they're doing. So it's not about arrogance. It's like Falkirk. You know what I mean? They're the newly promoted side. Like,
I think
not saying they're not doing well though. You know what I mean? They're only 2 points behind us.
Like the Guns brought them up for the the Championship. I was having a look at this yesterday.
The League One?
For League One, sorry.
Aye.
So, and he's been in. I had a look at when he was appointed as well. And I think he was appointed in 2022. I think he left Wraith, went to Falkirk, and he's been there for like 3.5, nearly 4 years now. So that's an opportunity for him. Like that's an argument for time, surely. Like that a guy with a smaller budget in League One, like, and they would like Falkirk are a relatively big side and shouldn't have been in League One, is what their fans would be telling you. There was a lot of things about a lot of fuss made in press interviews with like the board, etc., etc. But McGlynn has had time to implement his style and bring in his type, and work with the the hierarchy to bring in the right sort of players to take the club forward. And we're doing the opposite of that. We're saying, no, 18 months, that's plenty. You're inexperienced, you're a rookie, you're only here because of Heather, etc., etc. Like, for me, I think there's an argument for giving, never mind David Gray, but any manager the time to implement everything that they want to implement. And at the end, after those 4 years, McGlynn's been talked up for the Aberdeen job. Like, so, like for me, that's a complete contrast in direction that two clubs are taking.
Are you okay for next another 5 minutes or so? We'll read another because I've got so many comments. I wanted to get through as many as we could, and I think we're going to still carry some over to probably extra time tomorrow. Green Tea said if Eddie May was that disliked, he wouldn't be at Hibs. And I have to again just stress that I've not seen the rumours about Eddie May. That's no us as a podcast saying that. Mark said, we are the 5th biggest team in the country. Our fans just over-expect every year. Maybe top 6 should be considered a good season going by our last 30 years of history. And Hibs 3,800 said, should never be losing 4-1 to Falkirk, for fuck's sake. Season's over and crowds will dwindle. Gray sounds clueless in interviews. What did you think of the interview, Colin? I know you didn't normally listen to them, but I don't know if you've heard them after the match.
I've only heard the wee bit in the BBC after the sports scene highlights, where he effectively says we were outfought and all that. And I heard the radio for a wee bit after the game, and they said it was good to hear a manager not making excuses and blaming the ref for stuff, like taking it on the chin. And I've spoke to my brother-in-law, but he says Hibs TV, he totally hammered the players, but I've not heard that, so I'll let you talk about that.
John, you heard it?
No. I was sorry. I think because I was that fucked off after the result yesterday, I saw one, I think it was maybe the BBC Sport interview. And I feel like David Gray's interviews are pretty honest. Like if we do well, it's about the players. If we do poorly, he goes, well, we were shit. Like he doesn't try and if you contrast that, I think, with the previous managers' post-match interviews, like he got hammered for them because he would just bounce the question straight back, just repeat the thing that had been asked of him. David Gray, I think, will at least, at the very least, will try and answer the question that's put to him, and he'll also be honest about where he saw the failings.
And he was honest. It was. I thought he looked angry last week against Dunfermline. He looked absolutely fizzing this time. First thing he started with was apologising to the fans for what had gone before. He said he told the players it's not acceptable, that it's well below the standards expected at Hibs. He took full responsibility for it. He says we got outfought and we were second best in every aspect of the game effectively, and that there were some home truths said to the players, right, to summarise. So didn't make excuses, took responsibility for it, but also made it clear that he had told the players it wasn't acceptable. He also said, though, he had expected a reaction after last week and they didn't get it, so he's looking for a reaction next time. And I think that sort of loses impact as well. Like if you're needing to kind of keep saying after every defeat, I'm looking for a reaction next week, and you didn't get it, then you something's no landing. Right, a couple more, and then we'll wrap up. Gordy said, even by Hibs standards, it's been a roller coaster, but the season is finished. Massive danger of apathy setting in. Where do we go from here? We either write off the season or go for a change now and hope for the surge. It's only 9 points off second in the worst league on record. That's like 9 points off second, and we're sack manager. It's a mental, total contradictory season, as you said, Colin. Chris said, worst performance of the year followed by an even worse one. No pace, no passion, no desire, no idea. Clueless on the pitch, clueless on the bench, and now a stinking run of fixtures. We'll be lucky to finish top 8, never mind top 6. Clyde Livy and Kelly are shite. Aki said, is David Gray the common denominator here? Every crap manager has had him in the coaching staff. He's had his chance, brutal start, came good, and is now going backwards again. Can he sort this out with new signings? Can he provide a plan B or C to the now found out 3-5-2?
What was it,
Kieran,
second half yesterday? Was that not 4 at the back, though, second half?
we went 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, whatever it was, when Yuan came on. Kieran said, we need more dual position players in the club. We need players who are capable of playing in many positions, but not good enough for their own positions. That will surely help us out. We would sign Messi and play him at centre half. Outfought, outworked, and outplayed, second best all over the park, said Baz. Axel said, nobody can defend Gray anymore. It's all over. He's not fixing this. Gillian said, Block 7 should put their banner back to being upside down. Hibs played better then. First to wear the green. Time for Gray to go. Inexcusable results, performances this week. Mixu99 said the only club in top league still not made a January signing when we have known we'd had weaknesses since the last window, compounded by injuries and overall staleness. We're either skint or completely incompetent in bringing in players.
Sorry, just one thing I wanted to bring up before. It was around Malky Mackay recruitment not having signed a player yet. When we had the big clear out before, like 18 months ago, whatever it was, Malky Mackay was talking afterwards about, was it something like 90 transactions they had to make within a certain period of time?
Something like that, yeah.
So to me, that suggests that they have previously worked hard to resolve what they saw as a problem in front of them and get Hibs going forward better. I assume that they are putting in the same level of work now to try and get players in that they see. If they don't see that there's a problem there, then that's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
But I tend to, I don't know whether it's optimism or body of evidence or whatever, but I've got to believe that they're trying to get players in, and it's not proving easy. Like, so Paslak, for example, like it seems like that's been held up by Bochum not being able to get a replacement for him. So that's context. Like that doesn't say that like Malky's sitting with his feet up on the desk, like watching Lombires on YouTube this afternoon. I'm sure he's making phone calls to try and get folk in.
We'll never get invited back. We'll get banned for Easter Road. Fife Hibbett said, absolute death of a team in 2 weeks. Look a shadow of who we were against Hearts and don't see which player or players change. Always try to see the positive, but that actually gave me further depression. Stuart said he persists playing a system that we don't have the players to play it. Sorry, only reiterated last week's decision that the job is too big for him. Hibs are a multi-million-pound business with Rookie in charge and his coaches are the same. Shambles. Ewan said the players are going to get Gray fired. Utterly shite. No desire. And the last one I'll get because we're out of time is Part Fry's image. He said brutal first half. Press didn't work as Falkirk always had a free man and we couldn't play out because Falkirk had the outlets covered. That's down to the coaches. Second half was better, but we didn't create enough and ultimately just got outworked. At least we had a plan B. Right, I think we have got loads.
Can I ask, where do you go?
Can. Yeah.
When do you become a non-rookie manager? How long in role?
I don't know. I don't think Gray's a rookie manager anymore. He's had a full
he's still
season.
called that.
I know, but I think he's got a full season. Last year he was rookie, but he's got a full season under his belt. This isn't like a debut season for him now. He's managed in a cup final. He's managed in Europe. He's managed a team off the bottom of the league, and he's managed a team at the top end of the league. He's managed against the biggest teams in the league and got results against them. I don't know how much more experience in these things he needs to be considered anything. To not be considered a rookie manager. I think he's got enough notches on the bedpost to have a bit of experience about him now.
Yeah.
The answer. Right.
I because it's getting thrown about. I've read it, heard it there, I've read it on other things, and I just go, when? Like, he's 18 months in role, and like as you say, he's finished third in the league. That's what.
Right, we'll wrap up there. Obviously, we've no scratched the surface. There's loads of comments on YouTube that we didn't get to, and apologies that we didn't read them all. We just literally ran out of time. There's loads still on Twitter that we've not got to. So what we'll do is we'll carry this on when we record Extra Time tomorrow. If you're new to the podcast, Extra Time is our subscription episode. So if you subscribe either by clicking the wee join button on YouTube that you'll see on your screen now, or go to Patreon and signing up, you get a an extra like exclusive half-hour episode every week that goes out on a Monday, where we pick on one particular topic. And I think this week we will carry on the conversation.
Do we still have 7 days free trial on Patreon?
Yeah, you can try it out for 7 days on Patreon. You get a 7-day free trial to decide if you would like it. And obviously there's chat rooms and stuff on there as well if you want to talk Hibs with other Hibbies. And you get the phone-in details as well if you've ever thought about joining us on the phone-in on a Wednesday night. The Zoom details go in there so you can get them and just dial in. We'll leave it there. Thank you, everybody, for sending stuff in. It's been a difficult one. Like, I've not found that easy to sort of navigate through because it's a very emotive subject. And like I said before, I don't think anybody's feelings are invalid with this one. And there's loads of really good points on either side of the argument. So feel free to disagree with us or agree with us. You know, like it's the nature of the beast. It's like it's a subjective sport.
I think when you touched on it earlier on Patreon where you said that like it doesn't matter whether you're grey in, out, or any manager in or out, like we're all approaching it from the same place, which is wanting the best thing for the football club.
Aye, 100%. That's it. We've all got Hibs at heart. So, right, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I hope it goes your way, whatever you're doing, and we'll see you if you're a subscriber tomorrow. Take care.